Welcome to the only podcast that oversells itself.
Yeah.
Every other podcast completely is humble and very aware of itself and does an accurate self-appraisal, but we like to give you guys a little something extra. The sort of best podcast that there is for some people, depending on your sensibilities. Mind Under Matter!
We're getting flagged on YouTube for singing Venga Boy songs, and now I'm cutting it out.
Oh, no. Copyright infringement. We fuck with that.
Yeah, we do. We're bad boys, like we said on episode whatever, the bad, not so bad boys of comedy TM.
Today we're talking about bad things happening. We're talking about me breaking both my feet. I want to offer just a couple caveats or apologies or something ahead of time. One, there might be some of you that heard me blabbing about this endlessly already. At least you'll maybe get to hear it in a new way. And I have a lot of space between. A lot of time has gone by. And so if you're like, oh, that 20th time, just because you're a Shane Mauss super fan and you've listened to every single thing that I've been on. But for the listeners that are new, you're going to find this interesting. And the other thing is, I want to be clear that I'm not telling a story to feel sorry for myself. Everything's fine.
Oh, you broke both your feet. Are you okay? Can I get you anything? Let me know if there's any way I can help.
A lot of worse things have happened to people. It was just a eventful thing that happened that I learned a bunch from, and it was impactful experience. I ended up making a comedy album about it called My Big Break. If you want to hear a bunch of related jokes, I actually had most of the show together before I broke my feet. It just so happened I was writing a show that was related to the evolution of pain and depression and negative feelings.
Maybe your subconscious fucked you over. Maybe your subconscious is like, you would really give this.
Needs.
Yeah, that's the cherry on top, both feet. Do you think, would you have rather broken an arm and a leg or both feet? Both feet sounds worse.
Oh, well, you can't really use crutches with...
Oh, that's true.
And it was, the one foot just wasn't that bad. One foot was awful. The other one wasn't that bad. One
of them took the brunt of the fall.
I've broken, when I was a kid, I broke, I want to hear, have you ever broken any bones?
No, I messed up my back. I had a ruptured disc, still kind of do, in the L5, S1, L3, L4 disc, but never a broken bone.
Is that something that they'll fuck around with some stem cells and shoot you full of
maybe now
experimental things?
I broke mine in 2002, or I ruptured the disc in 2002, so maybe now they do. I feel like back then it was all like, I don't know, stem cells were still controversial. And
I just saw some video of Steve-O put out today where he was doing some...
I put some baby smushed sounds inside of me.
He puts up the what was that, anesthesia off, where he was... It was pretty funny. He was trying to stay awake for as long as he could on anesthesia.
Oh, wow.
And he's just very confident that he's going to be able to do it. And he has to keep talking through it to like win his bet. Like him and this other skateboarder guy have this thing that they keep on doing to like break their records. And it's it's actually freaky watching someone try to stay awake on anesthesia because they start saying like words that aren't words. And they look like, oh my God, are they going to die? It looks like they're going to die because you're really not supposed to fight it that hard. Like, I thought,
Isn't he sober
am I watching
now,
a
too?
man have a seizure? Yeah, but that's like,
That's different.
that's sober Steve-O hijinks. But they went to some other country. Him and this skater dude that's had a bunch of injuries went to some other country to get stem cell stuff. So I don't know. First off, I wouldn't know the first thing about this stuff. I can tell you that after my second, I had the person that did my second foot surgery. I had him on my podcast, and there was one point I was asking him because people eventually lose cartilage in their knees.
Yeah.
Just
as you
comes
get
with
older, you just
aging.
lose it. Yeah.
Yeah, and evolution. There was no selection pressure ever to keep like an 80-year-old's knees good. Like evolution's just kind of done with you by that point. So it's like, oh, whatever. It had cartilage when it was this organism had good cartilage and mobility when it was mating and reproducing, and after that, who cares? But the surgeon was saying that he was saying that he thought that stem cells are going to put a lot of surgeons out of business, and he also said, so that's encouraging. I mean, that is cool. It is so cool, the potential with science and medicine, for all the many problems that there are within, and like people have every right to be skeptical of modern medicine and pharmaceutical companies and everything. And but the possibilities are also like incredible what can be done. Like zoo animals live way longer than they're supposed to because they're just on top of it and giving them acupuncture and a perfect diet and just doing all these things. So they're living so much longer, healthier lives.
And they're not supposed to die from old age like most animals. This might be completely false, but it sounds true. Most animals die from, if they are prey and not a predator, they're going to die from a predator eating them most likely than they are from
losing fight or whatever. Yeah, that's which is also probably, I'm sure old age contributes to that.
losing the fight, but never just dying like, I'm too old, I must die. Also, I didn't know octopuses died after, like, apparently the male octopus dies immediately after giving its sperm to the female octopus, and then the female octopus is like, okay, bye, boy, and then the female octopus dies after the kids are born, like a few months later. I didn't know that. I thought octopuses lived forever and they were more evolved than us, and they sent their kids to college and they packed them 8 lunches, and no, they just die. They're like spiders. Oh, spiders, the arachnopod, octopod, maybe multiple arms mean kids kill you faster.
Yeah, and feeding yourself to your kids and stuff. Octopi don't do that. Octopuses? It's not octopuses. Octopi do that, but or don't do that, but lots of weird insects and other things do. Yeah, there's a lot of fish that I mean, salmon put everything they have into making that. That's a brutal one, because so salmon go up from they'll go up from, like, say, the Gulf or whatever, and back up the river and go all the way up to where they are born to spawn, and that journey is so incredibly challenging. So what to make that journey, just, we've talked about chronic stress on this podcast, they just have pure cortisol just running through their system all the time. They don't, like, go into that parasympathetic response, and then after they spawn, it just doesn't shut down. They just stay chronically stressed, and they just start getting cancer and stuff. And then they just all start dying of
salmon
cancer.
Get cancer, and they're just the living embodiment as stress.
Yeah. At the end of their life. Yeah.
What a bad fish to be.
Yeah.
Be better to be one of those Nemo fish, right?
Yeah, Nemo
Clownfish.
for sure.
Clownfish, saltwater fish.
But yeah, that's not unusual for things to die like not too long after their offspring. I wouldn't say that it's not like the majority of happenings of life on Earth, but it's not something that's super rare.
Yeah, and we're
either.
by far the most bonded to the offspring, like by a huge shot. Like a gazelle is born and then just runs off from its mom and like already knows calculus and everything, and then we're like helpless for 2 years. And I think we discussed this on the Sapiens episode a lot. But another thing that animals sometimes do is break their feet in various situations.
So what happened was a little setup because it has to do with where my head state was at and my confidence, my overconfidence levels at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the best shape of my life, and that's not to say I was super jacked or something like that. It's not saying much for me to be in my best shape.
Your climbing ability, your ability to scale vertical everything was at your most. Yeah,
I've never been much of an exerciser my whole life, but I was really getting into it. I think at the time that it happened, to give you an idea, when I was at home, when I was on the road, which was a lot, I would just climb. I would be rock climbing like every other day or so. But when I was at home, I would rock climb every other day. I would do CrossFit every other day. And then I would go for a pretty long run on a beach and quite a long swim in the ocean every single day. And then I had just started taking boxing classes that I was going to like almost every day too. I was working out like crazy, like 4 hours a day. And so I'm in very good shape. I wasn't drinking or smoking or anything at the time. I'd been sober for a few years. And so I had I had quite a bit of confidence that I probably shouldn't have had in my abilities just because. And then I was going to Sedona, Arizona to do ayahuasca for my first time. It was my birthday. And I'm meeting with my friend Mikey, who's a fucking weirdo, but a good friend of mine. And just a really strange guy. He's Greek. And
love the Greeks. John Stamos, Yanni Poppy, Stavros, Zeus, Hades. Gotta love the Greeks. The Olympics, Aristotle. I'll go off of that. Yeah.
And he was in a similar thing where he was always pretty except he was always heavy. And he had lost a bunch of weight recently, and he was getting into like jiu-jitsu and all this other stuff. And we were supposed to go rock climbing on my birthday. That's what I wanted to do. And there was fires wherever we were going to go rock climbing. And so we just decided to go for a hike instead. And whatever. I was excited to do ayahuasca. I didn't need to climb that day. So we go for this hike in Sedona at shoot. I wish I could tell people the actual place where I was.
What? So they can go relive it? Have a
because people ask sometimes. It's like a pretty popular it's a pretty popular site and place to go hiking. And we went, and it was him and his girlfriend, who's a psychic, and they're both weird people. I like them both a lot, but they're strange cats. And she was she decided to stay at the base for some reason. And we were walking around and we were having a good time, and we were climbing up all these places that we shouldn't have really been climbing, but like we were getting these fun photos and stuff. And I kind of wanted to just get my adrenaline fix because I didn't get to go climbing. And then we got to this part that he was like, "Oh man, my lady won't ever let me take this one shortcut that I always want to try, and I'd like to try that. Would you like to go jump off this thing with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, we can go and have a look." And we get there, and it was essentially jumping like from one trail down to another trail. And I took one look at it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's too high. Yeah, don't. let's not do that." And then he's like, "Oh no, man, I think we could climb down like a little bit and jump down." And I'm like, I don't know. I don't. And
the risk versus reward there should have just been like going nuts. But
so a little setup. I love heights so much. Still to this day, I broke both my feet, and still I have cliff dived since that time. But every time I see cliff divers or anything, I'm like, ooh, I want to do that so bad. Like I just did a pretty shady rope swing recently, but I definitely I pause now because no one feels bad for you the second time you break both of your feet, I feel like. And I'd already broken a foot once. I broke my heel as a teenager. So I broke both. My first memory in life is me breaking my arm. I was like 2 years old, and
that's such a you thing to do. Break your arm at 2. My first memory is at 3, and it's of nothing.
Well, I have this like 5-second glimmer of a memory. I was 1 year old, and I was just looking out this door at this backyard. It's nothing interesting was happening. I just remember seeing this backyard, and my parents moved when I was like 1.5, so they didn't believe, but then I could describe the backyard to them. They're like, whoa. But anyway, my first clear memory, I'm like 2.5 or something. And my dad is like, my favorite thing as a kid was my dad like throwing me up in the air.
It's a good game.
Like jumping off of the stairs and him catching me.
A twirl.
Oh, I loved
the merry-go-round.
That's what I lived for. I wish there was like that's what I'd want in a robot eventually, like a big
large
giant
dad robot.
A large dad robot.
3, 2, 1, blast off. I love you, son, regardless of decisions you make in order to align to what you enjoy in this incarnation.
A large dad bod that can roughhouse with you.
Why does it need to look like your dad, though? Just build the fucking thing.
So, yeah, he was this was, I remember clearly just having a blast. He was flipping me. I was like back flipping on the bed, like a full black backflip, and then landing on my back. And I was like, yeah, again, like wouldn't let him stop, just having the time of my life. And then he was like, okay, here we go. And he flipped me, and I just landed with my arm
Tom
behind
Segura
my back.
Style.
And it was still just a bed, but I guess 2.5, you just land a certain way, and broke my arm, and I knew immediately. And I think my parents, well, I didn't know I broke my arm immediately. I knew something horrible had happened. It was it was, I just remember it being insanely painful. And and I remember they didn't take me to the hospital for like 2 days because
Holy
they
shite
thought I was
balls.
they thought, they were like, it's a mattress, he couldn't have I think they even called the doctor at one point, and the doctor was like, nah, you probably just have a crybaby kid or something.
Yeah, that's
and
80s, early
Yeah.
80s parenting.
And yeah, I remember specifically there was like this little display area in my parents' living room, and they sat me down when I was crying and got out their wedding album and they were showing me I must have enjoyed their wedding album or something like that. They were doing it to distract me or something, but I remember I have a clear memory of being upset. Of like, why are you showing me this? I'm in horrible pain right now. So that was my first memory in life.
Could they notice that you weren't using the arm, or were you still using the arm?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember much beyond that like first hour. And then I remember the saw when they cut off my cast, that as a child, like I don't even think they told me like, hey, we're going to get a saw out. It's going to look and sound scary, but it's a special saw that doesn't cut through skin. It only cuts the cast off.
It could cut through skin.
What's that?
It could probably cut through skin. It's probably more the way they're holding it.
Yeah.
But if it cuts through cast, I bet it cuts through skin and bone.
I think that there's something on blade. There's a way of making blades that makes them auto stop on certain
it measures like
things.
a certain density or something.
Uh-huh.
Okay. In the 80s too? Wow. I thought they just got out a butter knife.
Whatever it was.
They're just watching Nancy Reagan on the little TV.
I just remember this little circle saw just like coming to my arm. I'm like, oh my God. That's my second memory in life. So that was the first broken bone. Second one. So yeah, first memory of life, breaking a bone while getting an adrenaline rush. Really set the stage for
and it shows that you're in it. Like you're an actual adrenaline seeker. Like if that didn't discourage you, nothing will.
Oh no, not at all. And then I'm shocked that I don't have more broken bones in my life because I've had so many close calls. But the next time I broke an arm, I was being a good Samaritan and also in doing something that I enjoyed. So there was a swing set where the swing was all wrapped around the top and tangled.
Hate when people do that.
Very good at climbing up the swing set and going over and like hanging on it. And so I'm just hanging upside down on the top of the swing set by my legs, just undoing the thing. And I guess I just wasn't paying well enough attention to how well my legs were gripping the thing. And I just took a fall from the top of the swing set and came down on an elbow.
Same one?
And nope, other arm.
Symmetry.
Yeah, symmetry.
Lena Dunham style. You ever see I think it's in Girls, she takes a Q-tip because she's OCD and like can't stop Q-tip cleaning her ears, and then she like punctures her eardrum, and then because she has that OCD, she does it to the other ear too because she needs the symmetry.
Oh my God.
Yeah, not fun.
That is awful.
Yeah, so if anyone, and that's probably based on maybe it's based on the actual Lena Dunham character. So if anyone, I don't think people get mad at her anymore. That feels like a 2015 thing to get mad at.
What were they mad at her for? I don't follow.
Just famous people. They have the wrong take or they have the right take and they're too forceful about it. I forget who's mad at them, what side, but one of these characters that's been mad at people.
I
been
always
mad at
have
them.
the fear with Q-tips that I don't think you need a Q-tip as much as they tell you. I think that's big Q-tip trying to make all that sweet sweet Q-tip money. But I don't. Do you have that fear? Oh, here's a weird thing that I do. I'll clean both of my ears at once. I guess that's on you. People say that's every girlfriend that I've
What's
had.
the
is
rush?
Like, why do you do that? I like the way that it feels. Maybe
It's like getting
the
2
symmetry
toothbrushes and like doing it Chris
It's not
Fairbanks
like-
style.
I have one mouth though. I have 2 ears,
Yeah.
and I know I'm going to need a Q-tip per ear. I defend my right and my process.
Some countries don't have that right. The privilege to use 2 cues at once. No, I'm not really afraid of it, but I also go pretty easy with the cues.
Yeah,
But maybe it'll
so
make
do
me
I.
deaf. I don't know. I don't want to go deaf. No
There's
offense
been a
to our
couple
deaf
times.
listeners.
Yeah, there's been a couple times where you go in a little far and it's like, did I just break something? And so
They've
shy
got the
away from
drops
that.
too, but the drops just aren't as satisfying. Where you put drops in your ear and then you bend your head over one way and then it should drain it all out healthily. But it just ain't the same. It's like when you crave coffee and it's like, here, have this mild green tea instead. And you go, I guess, but I wanted the jitteriness. I wanted the cocaine kind of go feeling. But sometimes you need to take it easy.
So the second broken arm, my memory of that, I fall, I know my arm is broken, and I'm just like a block away from my house, and I'm with 2 of my childhood friends, and for whatever reason, and I'm just like, my arm is broken, and they're like, are you sure you're okay? That's what they kept on asking me. I'm like, no, I'm not okay. I'm saying my arm is broke. It's like they couldn't hear me. I was 8. They just kept on saying, are you sure you're okay?
They're giving you an opportunity to change your answer. Are you sure you don't want to go to the hospital? No? Okay.
And then, so that was the first real one. Cause when you're 2.5, it's like, I don't remember anything other than what I told you. Whereas when you're 8, that's a whole event in school of like you miss out on all these activities and so I think it was my left arm, which is lucky because I'm a righty, so it didn't completely inhibit my ability to write or anything, but it sucks not being able to. I don't know what's worse between feet or hands because, like, or arm, which limbs you want to break, because feet, you want to walk around.
Yeah, one takes you places, the other one lets you do stuff while you're at the location. You don't get somewhere with your arms.
Yeah, but to not be able to type and stuff and to not be able to handle things well, like, I don't know. I think it's kind of a toss up. I can't be a broken legist just because that happened to me. I don't know what it's like to break both arms.
Yeah.
Like wiping situations are probably difficult, and
you'd want to just submerge your whole ass into like a tornado of cleaningness. Like, can some machine just take care of this for me?
I like that instead of getting a bidet, you
not enough.
invent a new machine. That's a little tub for your ass. I like the ass tub.
Yeah.
So that was second broken bone, and I can't believe, because I thought I broke my back once for sure, falling off of like a jungle gym ish thing in someone's backyard, like a homemade one, and then it turns out a bruised spine can be awful. And I guess it can feel worse than a break. Not that it's worse than a break, but I guess
Does that mean the
moment
vertebral column got a bruise on the bone?
Yeah, it was right on my tailbone.
Okay.
And then I remember my friend's mom was like, "You just got to walk it off." I was like, Jesus. People back then were just...
They were tougher, but it's not the right advice all the time.
Not the right kind of tough.
I appreciate the toughness, though. I think we could use a little bit of it today, but a lot of the times it's the wrong answer.
Yeah.
Makes things worse sometimes.
It depends on where you're at. You're living in LA right now. Would you say the same thing if you were still living in Dallas, Texas? I don't know. We're like, they need more tough around here.
Oh, Dallas, Texas. Well, I don't know. There's various ways you could look at the tough because I don't know. There's whininess on all sides. It's not a particularly like only the liberals are whiny. It seems like there's a lot of conservative whininess as well, as we've talked about.
They think that like they have like insane ideas about what the devil is up to, which is like a real kind of weak ass.
Yeah, the devil is the original cancel culture of like, this thing is satanic, this is mean to Jesus, and so on. That was the original cancel culture.
Plenty of that where I'm from too, but
yeah,
I don't know. I guess I sometimes feel like when a lot of comedians or whatever that are like, no one's tough anymore. It's like, well, you live in LA. It's like living in San Francisco and being like, the whole world's gay now. It's like, you're in San Francisco. Like, you chose this. This is like a sampling error. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. And then the next time I broke a bone, and it is the penultimate bone breaking. I was on a houseboat. I had a friend whose parents had a fucking houseboat business, and they also, his mom tried to be like the cool mom, and the teen like let us drink and stuff like that.
Everyone knows that friend and that mom. It's the same mom. It's the same bedazzled sweater.
Okay, brief technical issue, but yeah. So, friend with the needs to be cool mom had a houseboat business, and once in a while they would let their kids take the houseboats out. And so as teenagers, we got to have parties on a fucking houseboat.
Hell yeah.
Do you know how amazing that is? You get like 80 teenagers on a houseboat. Do you know how fucking stupid that is to let a teenager have a houseboat?
I don't know what cool mom, I don't know what their deal is, but we appreciate them. That archetype is very needed, but like what goes through their head is like, you know what I'm going to do? Have all these teenagers on my property and be responsible for it.
It's fucking crazy.
I remember my parents took pride in we're not your friends, we're your parents. And they weren't even super strict or anything, but they made sure to understand that like a lot of parents they're very keen on being their kids' friends because they either weren't popular in high school and they want to be popular, or they were popular and they miss it and they want to relive the glory days. So there was no incentive for them. It's like, no, we're fine with not being the cool parents.
Yeah.
But they were cool. The thing is,
my mom was a nervous wreck with me. My dad was just my dad's quiet and just lets everyone else make decisions, but he would enforce whatever. my mom would say. Which
I just imagine your dad
always
hammering something while he's just like, just listen to your mother. And then he keeps hammering.
Yeah, that's most of what he does. My dad gets done with working like 10, 12-hour days and then comes home and then puts in about 4 hours or so working on the house. And then and then he'll sit down to watch TV, but he needs to like get up. He can't just sit through a hour-long show. He needs to like get up and move around.
Oh, I wish I had that.
It's I
watched the show. I watched the director's thing after the show. I watched the deleted scenes, and then I find something related to the show to jump to perhaps a YouTube reaction.
I watched the video of me watching the show that I was making.
The Bo Burnham thing where he does the reaction video, and then it loops back to where he's reacting to the reaction to the reaction to the reaction.
I loved that special quite a bit.
Let's
stay on track.
Yeah, stay on track. The Teen Boat. So what happened on Teen Boat?
Teen Boat is we're having actually relatively small party this time, and I had a friend, Montgomery, and he always talked like, oh, Montgomery. He always talked like a very fancy man, and there's nothing like terribly fancy about him, but he just, I mean, he didn't have, I don't know if you saw it on TV or whatever, because he didn't have any kind of spectacular upbringing or anything like that. But
was it fake, or it became his actual voice?
It became who he was. He just sounded like a very fancy. He always sounded like 20 years older, but in a cartoonish way. And he was very drunk, and I was talking with a girl, and I was dangling my feet off of the second floor of the houseboat. We were parked at a dock at the time, and we were all drinking. He was very drunk. There was video of it. I wonder if this video exists anywhere. And he just decided, because my feet were hanging down and he's hammered, he just decided he was going to grab my feet and like hang on them and swing them around. And he is kind of a heavy set person too. And so I'm just getting pulled off of this houseboat and about to just like be body slammed because this person's too drunk to realize what they're doing. And I was able to kick my shoes off before he could completely pull me off. And then I forget what exactly happened, because I was kind of on my way off already, but then I like jumped off. It was a height that you could jump off if you were wearing shoes, but barefoot, not so much.
So if there's a video of this, is nobody screaming like, hey, you're going to get him killed?
I think there was something like that. And jumped off, landed on the deck, because I went to jump off and like grab him or whatever. And I don't know what. But so I jumped off and I landed, and then I went to like grab him. And then I'm like, oh, my foot's broke. I broke something. And it was later determined it was a broken heel. I didn't know that at the time.
How did he break your heel from that? Is that it broke on the impact when you came down?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then I hopped on one foot home to get to my curfew. And then I...
What happened to the girl? Is she like, well, I really like you as a friend, but I was looking at this two-legged guy who he wanted to take me to a place and not hop to it.
I don't remember. But then I ended up sneaking back out of my parents' house that night while hopping on one foot, just so I could go back to drink some more on the houseboat with a broken foot. I'm not going to miss out on the party. And then when I went to the doctor, it was the X-ray tech. It was at the clinic that my mom worked at. She was a receptionist, and the X-ray tech said that was the first broken heel she had ever seen in her 20 years of being an X-ray tech. So, and that wasn't a big deal. It was just a like hairline fracture sort of situation. So those are all my broken bones. Now I'm sitting on the cliff of this thing in Sedona, Arizona with my friend Mikey. And we're having like a 5-minute long debate. And I'm kind of thinking, maybe I could make it. He was thinking about trying to climb down a little bit and then jump. The problem with that, and if we would have tried that and done it right, I probably, in his defense, probably wouldn't have broken my feet. But the issue is that it was onto a cliff. We were jumping onto a cliff. And so if you jumped backwards and lost your balance in any way, if you didn't land upright, if you couldn't roll at all, you had to land right on it, like straight down. Otherwise you'd just go off a cliff that was like, 300 feet high or something like that.
Yeah. Seems like a bad idea in multiple ways.
Yeah. So many bad ideas. And so he's now just convinced that he's going to go. And I was like, he wasn't good at climbing. I was, and I was in really good shape. And I was like, well, if I go first, I'll at least be able to spot him so I don't watch my friend roll off this cliff. Well, what if I would have just, sure, hindsight's a motherfucker, but what if I would have just let him roll off of a cliff? Like, what if he would have jumped and rolled off a cliff and oops, I gotta go find his girlfriend who's like waiting down below. Be like, yeah, he's not.
This would be a different
back.
episode.
Yeah,
be watching your friend die. The episode. So which is also a good episode, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
Yeah. So I finally decide that I'm gonna go first. And so I jumped down, and this is another critical error. I was wearing barefoot running shoes. Key to jumping, like have some good cushion in your shoes.
What's barefoot running shoes? Is that the toed ones?
No, just like no soles in them. Yeah, it was kind of at the height of the barefoot running craze when everyone was like, no one's running right in shoes. We all got to be barefoot all the time. And like CrossFit recommended them or whatever. And so, yeah, so I didn't have the proper support either. Cause I know when you rock climb outside, you jump around on things enough. And I was like, well, it's certainly not the highest jump that I've ever done. It's just that I can't tuck and roll or anything. I need to take all the weight with my feet. And I even told my friend, I'd be at risk of like breaking a heel. That's what I even said before I did it. And then I thought about it a bunch. And I was like, whatever. I bet I'll make it. And like, I'll get a good rush out of it. And so I ended up doing it. And when I landed, I broke both of my heels and one of them exploded. And
did you hear it?
People are often like, did you know you broke your heels? I was like, yeah, I heard it.
Yeah.
I heard it quite vividly. And it was like breaking sticks underwater because it just went through my entire body and then got to my ears. And then
you heard it from the inside.
From the inside.
It wasn't the sound going into your ears. It's the sound going in from your body up through your ears, and then people hear it out of your ears.
Yeah, yeah. And then I turned and I looked at him, and he was getting ready to jump himself. And I just turned and I looked and I was like, I just broke both my feet. Don't jump. And I said it just like that. And I guess because of my calm demeanor, he thought I was joking. And so he was like, I'm like, no, don't jump. I just broke both of my feet. I need you to help. I need you to like come the long way around here. And you may need to carry me or something. The long way was
always an option.
The long way was always an option. And so he went and like, oh man, I remember it taking forever for him to get there as I was just sitting there. And I was debating, this was right when, so I was like, how do I get out of here? Could they get a stretcher up here? I don't know if they could get a stretcher up here. Would they, what do you call a helicopter? Oh, because the first thing that I did, so one foot hurt. The other foot was like a very, very serious situation, clearly. And within like 10 to 15 seconds, I knew, oh, I have to take my shoe off right now, or it's never going to.
It's going to swell up and
come off.
Yeah.
And so I kicked the shoe off, and then I was like, I wonder if they'd send a helicopter. I guess that'd be the thing to do. But it was right when the universal healthcare system just started, and I had just signed up, and I got like 2 letters saying something needed to be processed or whatever. And it was like I had coverage, but I needed to pick a provider or something like that.
Always something.
It kept on saying there's like another letter coming soon that will confirm you're this and that, and then you'll pick this other thing. But it didn't seem like a finished thing. So I was like, do I have health insurance right now? I don't know that I do. And I don't want to pay out of pocket for a fucking helicopter ride. And I'm thinking about all this. The other thing that happened that was really interesting was I came up with this idea, which I've kind of shared before when we were talking about it on the memory episode. This was one of those moments that I realized that I reflect on. If you listen back to the memory episode, I think I might have even discussed this a little bit, but it was, I could just remember it so vividly. The moment I landed and broke my feet, it was, and unfortunately I had been meditating a lot at the time, and I was doing more psychedelics than usual, and I was just kind of tapped in a bit more and a lot more mindful. And I just remember seeing a simulation of just every possibility all at once of what would my day, what was, we were supposed to go to a movie that night. So like, what was my day going to be like if I hadn't done that jump? What if I would have jumped differently? Should I call a helicopter? Can they get a stretcher remorse? Up here? All of these things happening all at once within like a second's time. And that's when I realized in those moments like that, what happens, your brain is, one, going back through time, trying to, maybe look at solutions from, information, that knowledge that you might have to navigate, something you learned in Boy Scouts or something like that. Can you fashion some sort of a cast out of sticks or something like that?
Probably not.
Or make some crutches or something, so that happens, but also there's something that your brain is in the process of making an impression on you of like, don't ever do this again. So it's also evaluating, It's evaluating the whole conversation that you had before, the different routes, the different choices you could have made for the day. And then it's also, so it's not just going back through that, it's also simulating where you would be right now had you taken that different fork in that other alternate universe. So, and so then it's showing you where you would be right now. And then it's showing you multiple visions of possible future outcomes as like, am I going to have to cancel shows and things like that? All of that. And I'm telling you, in like 1 second, your brain can do all of that, show you all of those movies all at the same time.
It's a mini life flashing before your eyes sort of thing.
And it's so incredible that the brain is capable of that. And not only is the brain capable of that, but probably doing it just constantly throughout every single day. It just rarely pulls consciousness into that process until you're in a situation where they're like, we better let the boss take a look at, or whatever. The boss is probably a lofty idea, but probably not the boss, but whatever. We're like, all hands on deck. Let's let the buffoon in here to take a look at what he's done.
I mean, it's like the computer too, and I know that the brain being a computer is not a perfect analogy, the same way that it's not a steam engine, and it's like we always put it as
it's not an awful analogy either.
It's the best we've got at the moment, but the way that all that stuff is still running on your computer, not just what you're pulling up on your current tab, but also the tabs you don't have open, the processes that are going on underneath the windows, and so on and so on. And even when you turn it off, the computer isn't ever off, because then all the memory would be erased. It doesn't just sit there like, no, I remember. It needs a battery in it that's always like running electricity through it, even when the computer is completely off. Otherwise, it would lose all of it. So
yeah. So that was something that was, I think a lot of people have had similar events that triggered something like that, or at least close to that. And that was one of the things that I was really grateful for from it, was that experience is something that I've reflected on over and over again in thinking about how my brain is running various simulations, and which ones are actually useful and which ones are just wild grasping at straws.
There's a lot of garbage in there. Do you think you would have done it if the guy wasn't there to peer pressure you?
No,
you wouldn't have done it.
Not at all.
Was there a lot of blame where, I mean, you said all the instances happened, but was part of you like, if this guy wasn't here?
Okay, so there was a little bit of that. Yeah. So there was,
I mean, we're blamey creatures.
Yeah.
We love blame.
So what happened? I mean, I still took accountability for my own actions and everything, but I will say, when he finally did make his way, then there was a situation, we were trying to figure out how we were going to get me down. And so what happened, which I didn't know until I got to the hospital, but my left heel had exploded, the doctor's words. And then I actually didn't think it was that bad. I thought my mind was, and my right heel was like just chipped a little bit, not that big of a deal. But what I thought in my mind was I had a pretty bad break in my left heel, and I had like a pretty bad bruise on my right heel. And I thought I was being like, I thought maybe I was being a baby about it. I thought I was exaggerating. Oh, here's another thing that factored into me jumping, which is knowing stuff about evolution, I also know about things like the negativity bias, and I know things like from when judging heights, things look higher when you're looking down than they do when you're looking up. It's a evolutionary thing in the
just
way
jump.
in which
It's fine.
in the way in which our consciousness is primed. Obviously, you want, if you're looking down and going to jump off things, you want your perception of it to seem higher than it actually is. And me knowing this made me be like, am I really perceiving this, or is this just evolution telling me this is too high and it's wrong? So it's a funny instance where maybe if I would have known less, I would have made a much smarter decision.
Yeah.
and so my friend Mikey, he finally gets over there, like fucking lollygagging. It's like,
What's lollygagging? I haven't heard that since the 20s.
Lollygagging is like taking your sweet ass time.
How long do you think it was time wise? Like an hour?
Like 30 minutes or so.
Okay, that's quite a while.
But he could have gotten there much faster if he would have like jogged or something, for sure. Like he walked.
It doesn't seem like a good friend. The friend that like encourages you to jump off the thing, takes a long time to get there. I like better. I like a higher caliber of friends. No offense, guy, but
yeah, no one's perfect.
Not that. Yeah, and case in point.
So here's what was irritating. So I decide I'm gonna try to make it down because I have one foot, my right foot, that's just the heel's chipped. I can use my toes. And so I have one set of toes and I have both of my arms and I'm in great climbing shape. And so for a while, he was going to try to help me get down. And then the terrain was just way too, like, there's even other people around after we climbed for a while that were offering to help, but the terrain was just way too challenging for anyone to carry me down it. So I had to climb down lots of parts. I just went again. I went back there last December, and I decided to show someone that I was with, and I was just trying to get them to the spot to see it, and they weren't comfortable with the climb, with like a person in good shape with all of their limbs working and functioning perfecly.
They weren't comfortable like, even getting to the spot that was even more uncomfortable.
Yeah, to even getting to the spot, like all of the stuff that I claimed down, they weren't at all comfortable climbing it with a fully functioning body, and I had to get down it, just with all of with everything going on. And
I'm more like that person. I mean, I know that there's knowing about evolution is a superpower in some instances, but I find that my superpower is I wholeheartedly believe in freak accidents. I believe that the glass of water can spill, hit the power strip on the ground and kill both of us or kill one of us, or the CO2 monitor could be malfunctioning and you could die that way. You don't get necessarily have an honorable, noble death at the end of, oh, I'm surrounded by family in this hospital bed. No, you could just trip down the stairs and that's it. No poetry to it, no conclusion, no satisfaction of the closure, just freak accident and you're dead. I'm always thinking about those.
I never did my whole life until after this. Then that started setting in a little bit more. Before that, I tended to lean more toward the Invincible side of things. And
we all do as we're younger too. I mean, I'm not completely impervious to it, but as you get older, you're like, oh, right, it's not Superman or even a lesser known superhero.
So I crab walk down and I have to climb some. And it took a long time. It was probably a 30 to 40 minute hike or something like that. But with 2 broken feet, it took like a few hours. And the sun's starting to go down and stuff. And we're low on water. And the irritating thing is he keeps on trying to like make jokes to lighten the mood.
Only
the
you're allowed
situation.
to do that.
And all of his jokes suck so bad. And I'm so irritated.
What was
And
one
it's
of the
like,
bad jokes? I mean, as long as we're
I don't
building the
remember.
character of this guy. Oh, okay.
I don't remember, but I promise I'll keep shitting on many of the things that happen.
At least you got a good head on your shoulders. You know what they say?
And-
One foot, left foot, right foot. You know what they say? Put one foot in front of the other. You know what they say?
And I remember still being committed to, well, I hope this doesn't screw up our movie plans tonight as I was going down. So there's a bit of denial going on too. And as I had shows coming up that week and just everything. And so we finally get down. Oh, and it was Memorial Day. And so he's convinced that I'm in too much pain to look anything up. And he's and now we're with him and his lady. He's convinced that hospitals aren't open on Memorial Day. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Memorial Day is like a high injury time, and hospitals don't close on holidays.
Yeah, and most people have to go to the office on Memorial Day. I feel like that's one of those ones that's not even like Christmas or Thanksgiving, where it's like, no, you don't get Memorial Day off. That's only for the post office and some teachers sometimes.
Yeah. And so I'm like, what are you talking? And I can't, I'm in too much pain to think straight. So I just need to get him. I'm taking his word for it that he knows to the closest one. But now that he's saying all this, well, this is the closest one, but I don't know if they're open. And he's like not looking it up, and so he's like, oh, you know what we should do? I should call Ted. And I'm like, who the fuck is Ted? Like, we have internet. Like, we have phones. And he's like, oh, Ted's my jujitsu instructor. Like, well, then why the fuck are we calling
Ted's going to tell you to go to the hospital if he's worth half a shit.
And finally we got to the first hospital, and there's a big line for the urgent care, and it's taking forever, and I'm in a lot of pain, and I'm also just like, I'm very calm. I've been very calm this whole time. I've been very calm for a good 5 hours now, and being in a horrific amount of pain. And so I'm trying to explain to the receptionist that I understand that it might not look like I'm a priority, and like I understand like triaging people and everything else, but if you can just have a nurse or a doctor or someone come out here and just look at how swollen my foot is right now, I don't mind waiting. I know you have limited rooms, but I need something. I need something for the pain right now. You just need to look at this. And they acted so annoyed by me because I like went up a few times over the course of like an hour or two, being like, I don't think you understand my situation. Like, I saw everyone else in there. It didn't seem like anyone was like dying of a heart attack or anything like that. And finally a nurse came out annoyed, and I showed her I was like, yeah, I broke my foot really bad, and she was like, how long ago was it? And I was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours ago. And she's like, well, if it hurt that bad, why'd it take you so long to come in?
If you had to go to the bathroom now, why didn't you go at recess?
And I was like, because I had to climb down a fucking mountain, you asshole. And so
that's how irritated they were in 2015. Imagine how irritable healthcare people are now. Like post-COVID, they probably have even less tolerance for anything that is not just someone actually on fire.
Yeah. There's they're like, the world is like 18 million healthcare workers short of what it should be at. I think that's a real statistic.
It's amazing
too.
Anybody wants to do it.
Yeah.
Because you could not pay me enough to do that job.
Really?
No, of course not. What are you going to pay me? $1 billion? I'm not waking up and doing it. I might agree to it now, but then when it comes time to go to the hospital to do it, I'm like, I guess I'm just going to not have to get that $1 billion. I don't want to do it.
I just get grossed out is all. That's my only thing. I would like to help people, but I don't want to see poop or things like that. I don't want to like see catheters and stuff. I just can't handle like gross things. Not that I wish that I was more mature, but I just have a really bad gag reflex for stuff like that, and
you don't want to throw up in there.
I would
in the
throw
wound.
up on every patient.
That's probably a filter that happens in medical school, right? Like you don't get to be a surgeon if you've got
throw up on
people. You have to be a radiologist or a anesthesiologist instead of a cutter. Cutters want to cut. Anesthesiologists want to anesthese.
So I call this other hospital, and they're like, yeah, we have a couple rooms available. There's no guarantee that they'll still be open, but we have a couple rooms available right now. And so we go there, and they got me in right away, and they looked at my foot and they were like, what hospital wasn't getting you in right away? This is crazy. And like they were, their reaction was so over the top that I was like, oh no. Like I actually still in my head, I was like, oh, what? I'll be on crutches for 6 weeks. That's what I was still thinking. And I got in and they're like, no, this is a serious, serious injury. And
got both ends of the spectrum. You got one side telling you it's nothing. You got the other side telling you it's everything. Your whole life is over.
And then because I told them what happened, and then they x-rayed my feet and found out that they are both broken. And so that was that x-ray tech's first time that she saw broken heel. She came in. It's funny, the same person is like, there's sort of like a delight to it. Okay, so first off, I'm pumped full of pain.
Morphine? What you got?
I think morphine. And so I'm just feeling dandy. I'm super chill. They're way more worried about life than I am.
Is the pain still there and you just don't care about it, or it's like gone?
Both. It's definitely not gone.
Like you feel a pressure,
it's not
but it's
gone,
like
gone. Definitely a big relief of the pain. And then also you just feel fantastic. I mean, not everybody. I guess there's someone was telling me this. This wasn't a scientist that told me this, but it is a smart friend of mine. And so this is a bit of a game of telephone. Is just on a paddleboard adventure. He is telling me that I guess platypi, if they bite you, they have some sort of poison that
wouldn't have thought that.
In humans, I guess it just makes you experience just like borderline insufferable pain for like 6 months.
6 months.
And
We gotta go genocide those little duck beaver things.
And I guess it's the case that whatever pain that their poison, like whatever systems in the brain their poison acts on, are not the ones that opiates act on. And so there's nothing you can do about it.
It's opiate proof.
It's opiate.
Oh, do not piss off a platypus. Just snipe it from like 100 yards away.
It's very difficult to even see a platypus.
That's one of those animals like anteater where you're like, yeah, they exist, but I'm never going to come across one. Like, I'll be lucky if even the zoo has one. They're one of those weird mixed animals.
Yeah.
Not quite a duck, not quite a beaver.
Do you know that
it's a Pokemon probably.
Sauce. I always forget the family and the different categories. Oh man.
The Rothschilds?
But no, the sloths and anteaters and armadillos are in the same family. They have a common ancestor.
Marsupials?
No. But anyway, just a fun fact. So like these doctors, they find out that I broke both of my heels, and again, the X-ray tech is like, that's the first one I've ever seen in the 10 years I've been an X-ray tech. And I was like, wow, and you got to see 2. That must be an exciting day for you. And they're like, well, not really, because now we need to X-ray your back too. So this is where I'm very fortunate, because and they need to give me an MRI and everything, because breaking a heel almost never happens. It's near impossible to break a heel. You need to fall from such a height. You need to like land in such a way. The heels are super strong. And if you break both heels, you probably did lots of other things. Like there's probably lots of other stuff wrong with you. Including you probably at the very least compressed your spine in some way. And so they did that. And so that's when I was like, oh shit, this is awful. This is an awful thing that's happened. I might have compressed my spine. They just told me my heel exploded.
Now you're 6'7" instead of 6'10".
Yeah. And didn't compress my spine. Then there's a whole thing with, so I don't know. So there's a lot here with this story. One, there was a so I had to go home that night, and I had to stay at his house. So I'm like, oh, I got to stay here for a while. They set up a consultation with me to go to some foot surgeon, orthopedic surgeon. And I did have the insurance, but I was out of network because I was in California at the time. So I was out of network. And so it covered the urgent care. But then when I went to the foot surgeon is like, this is not an urgent care situation because we're scheduling it. So technically it doesn't fall within urgent care. So you need to have this done in California for it to be covered by insurance. And I was like, but how would I get back to California? You said I can't fly. He's like, yeah, you absolutely cannot fly. Not with this foot. It was like the swelling was so insane. And so we were discussing, and it was like, well, maybe my friend can drive me back. And he's like, it's a long time in a car. Like because my heel exploded, all the bones were just like the fragments of bones were just floating around in there. So they wanted like as little vibration as possible. And also it needed to be done pretty damn soon before things started setting in like weird ways and stuff. And he was like, this is going to be an exceptionally complicated surgery. I don't feel very comfortable even doing it. You can either, I would say your options are, you could try the surgery. I would say you could not do the surgery and you'll never walk right for the rest of your life. Or we try the surgery and like see how it goes. And I was like, I guess we see how it goes then. And then it was the whole, how do we do this and have insurance cover it? So then I asked the guy, I was like, well, what if there was a time that you were around, because he has his own practice, but he would go to the hospital to do surgeries and stuff. I was like, what if there was a time that you were in the hospital and I just happened to show up to urgent care?
You just show up with the Groucho glasses and nose mustache, like, hello, I'm in need of some urgent care for this heel that I just exploded.
And that's what I did.
Hell yeah.
That's what happened.
Another example of the beautiful healthcare system we have, which it's so easy to criticize,
insane.
and I don't know how to fix it, and also like what level of healthcare should we be guaranteed, but also it's just so obviously such a big mess with all the different networks, and you're not covered and you're covered and you got to pay this per month and it doesn't cover that.
Yeah, I mean, I had bills for the anesthesiology bill that was I was fighting with the insurance company forever. I was like, how was the surgery covered, but the knocking me out, the anesthetic wasn't covered, but the surgery was covered?
We want a new
like,
quote.
was it optional? Like the anesthetic was optional or something during an exceptionally complicated foot surgery. There was so many things like that. Oh my God, we could do a whole healthcare thing. And then the other thing, so now I have to stay at my friend's house, who I like him, but a few days is plenty.
Same
but now
friend?
I'm there for like a few weeks. What's that?
Same friend? Reminder of the injury?
Yeah. And he had this thing where he had just a mattress there in his guest room. And when I first arrived, it was just a mattress on a floor. And I was like, I don't care. I'll sleep on a mattress on a floor. But then once I had 2 broken feet and needed crutches and stuff, I was like, yeah, what do you think about getting like a bed frame and a box spring just to raise the height? I'll pay for it. And he's just this guy that just has these fucking crazy dopey ideas all the time. And he means well. But he was like, oh, I couldn't, like, he stopped in one store and they didn't have bed frames, so he like gave up on the bed frame idea, and he's like, I think I'm gonna get like cinder blocks to put the bed up. You're making a whole project out of this. Just buy a fucking, he's trying to like save money on a bed frame by putting cinder blocks on a wood floor and making a, but it was just this whole thing. And then the worst thing was that, so I'm on a bunch of opiates, and fortunately they had legal weed there and stuff too, which helped a lot. And then I
remember you had bags and bags of edibles, more than I'd ever seen.
And they had, so I was super high all the time. And then they had, what was the other? Oh, they gave me medication because they're like, people get constipated on opiates. Mm-hmm. So you need to take this medication. And
magnesium.
So I took it. Something like that. I took what they told me to take. And then, a few days had gone by. And so then I just start eating prunes and dried fruit and stuff like that, like crazy. And I'm like doubling the dose of this stuff. And like a couple more days go by and I'm like, this doesn't seem healthy. I'm starting to get worried about not shitting. And then like day 6, I'm getting like, yeah, okay, I'm getting some false alarms. And then day 7, they happened to be out of the house and it was go time. I was ready to give birth. And I'm not telling this story to be gross, but this is just as a public service. Tom Segura, when he broke his foot doing a basketball thing, he
and his
posted
arm.
some video. Yeah, his foot and arm. He posted some video about how he hadn't shit in a while, and I DM'd him on Twitter. I was like, "You do not mess around with this. Do whatever it takes." And he wrote back grateful, but
wait, don't mess around with it, and then don't take too many laxatives, or don't.
Do not. If you haven't shit, like get on top of that. You do not wait 7 days to take a shit because of the opiates you're on, or
unless
whatever.
you're Tom Segura's producer, which
fix it.
One of his podcast producers, Annie, I believe is his name, he shits once every 2 weeks. And they even had Dr. Drew come talk to him, and they're like, yeah, it's very rare, but yeah, it's very healthy. And he weighs like 110 pounds or something. It's the craziest thing.
Wow.
I cannot fathom it. I don't know if he has a portal in his small intestine that like sends it to a different galaxy or something, but
I mean, when I was younger, I used to go a few days, and that wasn't
2
unusual
weeks,
for me.
2 weeks
is crazy.
Yeah, because you're talking about 1 week here, and this guy's regular 2 weeks. But so let's get to the crescendo of this.
1 week for me was what happened was I was by myself. They'd left for the day. There's all these annoying things. They're going to jiu-jitsu and stuff like 2 times a day, and they'd be gone, and there'd be all this stupid like their Roomba would go off, and like they'd get back at like one day, and I'm just kind of annoyed a little bit that they were part of like it was partly his idea, but he's very generous in letting me stay there, and he's a sweet guy. He's being as helpful as he can and whatever else. But I remember one day in particular where he's just like talking about a stupid jiu-jitsu that I don't give a fuck about, and he's like showing me moves on his
got him
girlfriend.
in an armbar, and then he tried to get me in a triangle, but then I got him on his back, and then I put him in another armbar.
And now he's like wrestling his girlfriend in front of me while I'm not giving a fuck at all. Dude, I do not need to see you get your girlfriend in a fucking armbar in this stupid demonstration. I am like so not in the mood for this right now. I'm like still in pain. But anyway, they were gone. I had to shit. I made it to the other thing was every night when I slept, I would have the dream of me jumping off of that. And then when I would land, my feet would jolt. This happened like almost every night for months. My feet would jolt out like in real life, and it would like fuck up my foot a little bit because you're not supposed to use it at all. And so made it to the bathroom, hadn't shit in 7 days. And what happened was like, it took so long. It was more painful than breaking both of your feet. It was just so you know, just so everyone knows that there is no playing around with that. It was more painful than breaking both of your feet. It was like close to baseball bat
damn.
size, like insane, because opiates make your intestines stop they relax muscles and stuff, so your intestines stop crunching on stuff, and so it's just gravity that's packing it tighter and tighter. It's just gravity, and every time you eat, it's just literally just mashing it through harder, but your intestines aren't doing anything to help. And it's just, I almost called 911
on the toilet.
But I didn't have my phone in the bathroom, and I was like, I have like half of a exceptionally hard turd like sticking out of my, like I almost reached and pulled it out. I was like, I thought maybe I was going to die. I was like,
also, what are your feet resting on? They're just in the cast things.
Yeah.
Because like when you're sitting, normally there's some pressure on the feet, so that's got to be hard.
It ripped me into 100 pieces, and it's just like blood everywhere. And
everywhere, like in the bowl,
and just this epic, but not just big, but just hard, dense, just not properly digested thing. It was such a horrific thing to experience.
What about on the other side?
Opiates,
like after you dropped the new single, were you like, I felt a big weight off of my shoulders, or was the pain like still there from the
no, from the ripping?
Yeah.
No, the pain was there for days afterwards.
Oh, damn.
And it was like every time I had a bowel movement after that, it just reopened all of the damage that was
at least it was already open.
I was worried it wasn't going to heal.
It was probably painful in a different way, but I bet the first one is still the most painful.
Yeah, but it was like there was like stuff ripped. There was a ripping that happened, and so it would re-rip just constantly after that. It was absolutely awful. And that can happen with any old injury or just going on. And I could see most people, I could see a lot of people, especially men, just being like, whatever, I'm just going to neglect the one thing. I'll take the pain pill, but the other thing, like, whatever, we're not not all of us guys are the most conscientious. But even when I was being totally on top of it and doing more than the doctor, or like looking up, what do I do? Okay, eat dried fruit, do all this other, it was still, that's the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life. It was worse than breaking both of my feet.
Worse than breakups, worse than breaking my feet, breaking the toilet bowl.
Breaking the toilet
bowl. Your heel exploded, followed by the toilet bowl chipping or exploding.
Yeah. So that was that. Then I went, so at the time I lived in Malibu and I had like 60 stairs, and it was also a fucked up situation because like a month before that, my girlfriend and I, that we were living together and we had broken up, but we decided we were going to, because we were both on the road a lot and we both got along fine as friends, we decided we were going to keep on living together until our lease was up, which was like 4 months from that time or something.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to live there was impossible. With 2 broken feet on crutches, to go up all those stairs, it was just impossible. So I came home and my parents helped me out for a few months, lived in the basement and everything, had to deal with all that. And then, which was, nice. It was helpful and everything. But one thing that I realized from that experience was that wasn't as depressing. All that time afterwards wasn't as depressing as I would have thought it was going to be. And a lot of it's because I had something I could put my finger on that was causing a problem in my life.
You knew,
and I
you
realized,
knew the enemy. Better to have the enemy
exactly.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such an issue with depression and anxiety, but especially depression. Depression is just this weird ninja, this like lazy ninja. Like, where is it coming from?
Yeah, you know, Bertrand Russell's book, the British philosopher from like 100 years ago, had a book called Conquest of Happiness. And he says, like, I'm proposing a solution to the everyday unhappiness experienced by most Western individuals, and having no apparent cause seems all the more unbearable because we can't pinpoint where it's coming from.
Absolutely. And I felt that way at the beginning of COVID as well, where I'm like, all right, that's a significant issue.
Yeah.
That's
you know what the problem is? We can even see it under microscopes. It's a red ball with little other balls sticking out of it, and it goes and attacks people, except if you're acting. If you're acting and you take your mask off, then the virus doesn't attack you. But
there is something to that of having, you know, a very tangible issue, because it's something that, especially when it's something that one is getting better, two was like not necessarily your fault entirely, you know, accidents happen, pandemics happen, you know, whatever. And so there's something that helped me kind of understand depression a little bit better, of just the vagueness of it is much of what makes it snowball.
yeah.
I've been feeling it lately. I've talked about with you, where I feel like throughout the day, just a good 3 hours where I just feel insanely miserable. And I could give you a lot of reasons for that.
It has nothing to do with the reasons.
But yeah, it's just, that's just me guessing at the end of the day. And it's because of that. If I knew, oh, fix this one thing and then it's all taken care of, but you don't ever know that.
Yeah, and it's better to look at the depression holistically rather than I am depressed because you don't know that because is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I feel I wouldn't call myself insanely miserable during the day, but definitely dumb, not good feel, want it to go away, think it's all pointless, why do I exist? Existence is bullshit. But now I've learned to just kind of nap it away. Nap it away, which a lot of people can't do that during the day because they have to go shovel snow or something. But I have the opportunity to nap during the day, so why not? Yeah.
Naps help that so much.
Just to skip those few hours, you know? Just skip them. Like, why am I trying to be productive during that? Produce what? I already produced stuff. I've produced stuff, waited till it's irrelevant, had more desires, produced those. Give it a rest, me. Enough with the production producing.
And sometimes you're more tired than you realize.
Oh,
and because being miserable is fucking exhausting too.
It is.
And then also, what a great reset. You know, you can have just a weird dream or something and then wake up from it and it just kind of snaps you out of it. Did I tell you the weird reoccurring dream that I've had a few times recently?
No, what's the recent one?
Stephen Colbert.
No, dive in.
It's very short.
Do you know him?
Nope. Almost met him once, and this is in 2007 before he was huge, but
this
I was
is back
already
in the
too like
Colbert
starstruck.
Report days.
This is even like before Colbert Report, I think. This Just Daily Show, 2007.
Oh, I think Colbert is 2007, but yeah, around that era.
Just started then. But yeah, I'm in an airport and Stephen Colbert comes up to me with like a a person, a stranger that I don't know. And he's like, this person needs to get out of this country. Can you help them? And Stephen Colbert is asking me to smuggle someone out of a country through a flight, and I'm supposed to figure that out.
Is it the same person every time?
No, different person each time, but they aren't anyone that I know.
I'm going to go on a wild interpretation of it. Stephen Colbert could represent the caricature of the right wing of politics, and perhaps the person he is carrying is an actual member of that side of the politics, and you have to get them out of this country, and this country is not physically move them out of the country, but out of the state in which they are in. You must convince them to not storm the Capitol, not spread anti-vax memes, not vote for Donald Trump another time. Maybe it's that.
That's a fun interpretation.
The only one I've got, because otherwise, what the fuck would he want you to do?
Yeah, it's so strange. I mean, dreams are so bizarre anyway, but what a great reset to a shitty mood is just to have something like that thrown at you, to be like, huh? Well, now I'm just thinking about why Stephen Colbert would want me to smuggle a person out of the country and trust me to do it.
Recurring dream.
I mean, it's only been like 3 or 4 times. But
and is it Late Show Colbert or Colbert Report Repair? Is he wearing a red tie?
More like Late Show.
Okay, he's wearing a blue tie.
Like Late Show, yeah.
Okay, well,
which is also weird because I never watched Late Show Colbert, but I loved
you
the
and
Colbert Report.
100 million other Americans, or you and what's the population? However big the population of the world is, that many people don't watch. Late Show with Colbert. Maybe they do, but I mean, come on, he's not Letterman with that. He can't be.
No.
I mean, all I remember is just him. Every clip I've seen of him is him crying because they're afraid Trump's going to win or something. But that maybe that's 2020 Colbert. But like, I just remember the slew of late night show hosts crying. Like last night, he refused to call out the Charlottesville protesters as being bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think late night is done skis.
It's beyond zombie. The zombie version of late night has already died of old age, and now another zombie has taken over of it. Much like the Simpsons.
Got zombies.
The Simpsons is a zombie too. It's the undead version of the Simpsons. The characters don't die. They don't change. The past changes in the Simpsons, like, because early on Homer and Marge, like, they reminisce about listening to Queen and Led Zeppelin, and now, like, when they flash back, they're listening to Arcade Fire. Like, when I was growing up, I listened to Arcade Fire and Killers.
That's kind of funny.
Or Kurt Cobain. It's like, what? I remember an episode that took place before Nirvana was even existed, and then here Homer is as a young man reflecting on going to a Nirvana concert, because
that's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is weird that they changed the origin story. But I don't watch new Simpsons because I'm a real man. I stopped watching after season 10 or whatever the right number is.
I haven't seen a new season episode of The Simpsons in well over a decade.
Did you ever read the guy who did a lot of LSD's theory of The Simpsons being just a model of the human brain, and each character is a different aspect of ourselves? Like, we're all Bart, we're unappreciated for our talents that are overlooked, and we're only seen as the things we screw up. We're all Lisa, we get ignored when we try to be the voice of reason. We're all Marge. We're afraid of being smothered by those closest to us because we're not building our own identity. We're just our identity of our friends and family and the pressure that they put on us. Homer's just trying to escape it all through numbing the pain. Shelbyville is another brain, and we hate the other brain, even though it's exactly like us. We think it's different, but they're exactly the same over there. But we see ourselves as us and them. But they wrote it out perfectly, and they're like, if aliens ever come here from Mars or whatever, I'm going to give them all the Simpsons and say, this is us. This is what a human being is. All these characters inside of Springfield.
Now I kind of want to watch a new Simpsons episode.
There's some good gags occasionally. Last time I checked, like when I put it on as background, I'm like, okay, that's a good gag, but it took 7 minutes to get there.
Yeah. When I broke my feet, I watched The Wire, and I wouldn't have done that otherwise because I had to have nothing else to do, because the first 2 seasons of The Wire, have you seen it?
No, but I hear it's, everything.
The first 2 seasons of The Wire is like, why do people like this show so much? This is a regular old cop show.
It's a lot of talking on burner phones, right?
Yeah.
I remember Andy Kindler had a bit about like, what would The Wire be like if took place before cell phones? It's like, oh shit, I got to get to a payphone. I got to contact this person. There's no cell phones. What am I going to do? Hey, no one's picking up, and something like that.
It starts getting really, really, really good in season 3. Like fantastic, because they start looking at it from beyond that. They start looking at it from a government level, and then they start looking at it from the media level, like journalist level, and these sorts of. So they expand beyond just like, here's what these cops are doing, trying to bust people, because that's like so overdone and played out. But yeah, good show.
So it's like a transparent view of everything, like why the media is not to be trusted, why the government is not to be trusted, and why you are not to be trusted.
Yeah. So that's it. That's me. There's still, I mean, that's not even though. Well, I'll just skip I'll make the rest of this story a little quicker. So the rest happens when I had, so my one foot heals pretty darn quickly. My left foot is not healing anywhere near as fast as they thought it was going to. There was, well, actually, as I thought it was going to. I thought whatever time frame they gave me, it was going to be shorter than that. And they're like, and they're like, well, that it could, but they did these, so it's like down my leg and then across my foot is where they cut open my foot, and it's like almost a 90-degree angle, and opened it up, and then they cut all these tendons apart and everything to get to the bone. That's the real trouble. That's why they're like, man, they don't want to do the surgery because they got to fuck up all your tendons and everything else. And so you're getting screwed no matter what. And so I guess he did an amazing job doing the surgery. And then they're like, it's hard to close up. Sometimes the corner rips out from the stitches, which I still don't understand why you don't just like put more stitches in or something like that.
Patent
if you know that
Patent
can happen.
More stitches.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened to me. So now I have this like big gaping wound in my foot. If you go back,
if only
far
that
enough
and your
on my
asshole
Facebook,
could trade places, that would have solved your problem. But you had the asshole that wasn't gaping enough, and then you had the wound that was too gaping.
that I had. So then I got back on the road, and I'm doing shows on crutches. Just repurposed my act and put the broken foot stuff in because it helped me like explain why I was on crutches and everything. And then it was like, so that was September that I went back on the road. My foot's just not getting better, and I'm starting to experience pain again. I got some painkillers from a friend. That helped a little bit here and there. And then in like December, I started getting a fever, And I was like, oh, I have an infection of some kind. And so I called them. I explained to a doctor what was going on. And they're like, you need to get here. You need an emergency surgery immediately. You need to fly here. This is really serious if that's what you're experiencing. So I go, and they're like, yeah, bone infection. You could lose your foot if it's not done properly and addressed right away. And so I get there, they take all the metal and everything else out. They scrape apart a bunch of bone, and they clean everything out. They put me on heavy antibiotics and everything, and then I got to be on IV antibiotics for a while so the infection doesn't spread. And then I'm on morphine or whatever, so I'm in the hospital just having a ball. I'm writing a bunch. I'm just having a great time. Who cares? Everything's going to work out just fine and dandy. That's what morphine feels like. And I'm feeling so good that they're like, yeah, you're in good enough shape that you can go now. Like, your insurance isn't going to pay for you to stay here anymore. And so here's what you need to do at home. And then you're going to have to hook yourself up to this IV 3 times a day, every 8 hours. And it takes like an hour or so to do the thing. So you never get a full night's sleep. And then at that same time, you need to unpack all the dressing in this massive hole in your foot. And then you need to clean out this hole and like clean your own foot bone. And they're explaining to me, and they're showing me what to do in the hospital. I'm like, they're like, you better look. I can't look at that. They're like, you better look, because you have to do this. You have to. We're sending you home. This is what you have to do, or you'll like lose your foot if you don't do this every time. And it was fucking awful. That was really, really bad. So my ex, because all that happened in this emergency situation, and I hadn't found a new place yet, I still had all of my shit because I was waiting to heal to get a new place and move my stuff. So I was staying in my ex's, like we had 2 bedrooms. So I was staying with her. She doesn't want me there. I'm just scrambling. I just need a place to stay for like a few nights and I have a bunch of stuff there already. And I have this registered nurse that comes like once a day to come and help me with the dressing and everything else and check on me and make sure it's going okay. And she's calling the hospital being like, you discharged this person to do this. This is a hospital procedure. This isn't something that you send someone home to do. Like,
but if you had to do it every day, though, like, is that possible? Would you have had to stay?
No, but
she's saying that you could have sent him off better had he stayed a couple nights.
Yeah, if I would have stayed for like a week, they probably could have got me in a pretty good shape.
Oh, okay.
Or they could have got me more support, like instead of just 1 visit a day. And yeah, I remember the first time. So it was weird because they didn't really show me. They're just like, yeah, hook the IVs up here. And I'd see like bubbles in the IVs and stuff. And so I'm like, I'm Googling how to give myself IVs and antibiotics and shit. Literally, I'm Googling half of this shit that I have to do. And then I remember the first time I unpacked all the dressing of my foot hole, and I looked in and saw my foot bone and just all the tissue and blood and stuff around there. I was just like, yeah, I can't. I'm like, I can't do it. I'm just gonna like wrap a thing around it and hope that's okay. and the nurse is coming in the morning, and we'll deal with it then. This nurse was fucking amazing. She's like this Jamaican lady or something, and she started coming like twice a day when she could. She'd get done with work and she'd come a second time to check in, because it was like such a like touch and go situation and such a difficult thing to do, and yeah, helped me out quite a bit. And yeah, and then there's so much other drama related to that, and with health insurance stuff, like I had to come back to Wisconsin because I couldn't care for myself in California, but then I was out of network, and then there's all these weird loopholes within it where I could kind of get it paid by insurance, but I would need this extended care sort of thing that I'd need a doctor to give paperwork to the insurance people, and then the insurance people, the doctor would need something from the insurance people before the doctor could do that. And there's all of these circles of just hours and days.
It just makes you want to die, even if you're not currently in a bad health spot. Just describing the system just goes like, can I just die right now as a healthy person?
There was a good like $6,000 at least that I was like, not whatever. I'm not dealing with it. Like, I give up. I cannot spend every fucking day like trying to pretend I'm a doctor, like getting a code and like doing a thing to get a paperwork to give to the doctor to get back to this person to hold this fucking thing just to get what everyone should have anyway, and it's insurance that I was paying for. And yeah, so I mean that's what insurance does, is it's like, well, if we make it enough of a pain in the ass for people just will give up.
Yeah, it's intentional bureaucracy to weed out those who don't have the stamina to read, to fill out that form. And the forms are not even the modern type of form that remembers your email address and like the credit card number. It like skips to the other 4 digits, but it's the old like 1998 style internet form of. Yeah.
It's a shitty situation. I feel for people that have ongoing things. I have a friend that just has like MS and all these other issues, and always having to deal with things. And man, it sucks. That sucks to have to do that all of the time.
No one wants a relationship with the hospital, but sometimes you just have to. It's like having an ex-wife or husband or something.
Plus, a foot's kind of straightforward, and they know what to do with the foot, whereas, you know, you have something like MS or Alzheimer's or something like that, and it's endlessly complicated. So 20 different doctors are going to have different takes on things, and hopefully you can find the absolute best specialist, but your insurance probably isn't going to cover that. And
you don't get Alzheimer's from jumping off a cliff.
Right.
But this one is like, no, there's physical damage. We can see it. It's going to heal itself if we also do this. So yeah. Whereas degenerative stuff, it degenerates and you don't know what to do.
So people always ask how far I jumped, and I have a joke about this on my album where doctors would always ask me. They would be like, "So how far did you jump?" And I was like, "I don't know, maybe like 10, 12 feet." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, 8 feet."
8 feet.
8 feet. That's when you start breaking bones.
That's the magic number. You had 2 extra feet. 2 extra feet to break the 8.
How did you not? How do we not know that in school? How does not everyone know that? I did a whole joke about this at the end of my album, but it's true.
The track title is called 8 feet, 8 feet, 8 feet, 8 feet, 8 feet.
And but I went back a few years ago to the spot, and I assumed when I went back, I was like, I bet I built it up in my head. I bet I'm going to, because I went with my girlfriend at the time. It's like, I've told this story. I bet I've exaggerated how high this was. And then when we got there and checked it out from the bottom of it, I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? It was like 15 feet. It was a solid 15 feet easily, which you can jump off like a 15-foot roof if you're in your prime. You know how to jump really well. You're jumping into grass
or jello.
You have great shoes on, and you know parkour, and you tuck and roll, and everything goes right. You can do 15 feet. You can't just in barefoot running shoes just drop off of 15 feet straight down and take that weight in your heels, or your heel, at least one heel, will explode.
I didn't even know heels could explode until it happened to you.
Yeah.
I thought it was so solid, like the one unbreakable bone of the body, the heel.
Yeah. It's the, I think it was funny, when I had the foot surgeon on Here We Are, he set it up. It was sounding so physicsy and like medical, because he's so professional sounding, and he's using so your what happened to your calcaneus is that you when you jumped down, the pressure on this region focused on this specific point in this way that made your calcaneus explode. You use the word explode, and I'm not good at doing an impression of fake science, but it was a like really well spoken stuff, and then just used the word explode. Describe what happened to my
That's
foot.
that's like the Louis C.K. joke where the doctor tells him that one of your knees is just kind of shitty now. And like the doctor used the word shitty. Like, shouldn't you say it's degenerated or some of the cartilage is worn thin or something? It's like, no, it's just shitty now. Which he might have just been making that up, but doctors can be funny.
Well, first off, they can be funny, and also we forget that they're human beings.
Yeah.
Like, it's just,
I had my
they
hernia
have
looked
a uniform and these degrees and all these other things, and you forget, like, yeah, everyone has their own style.
I had a hernia, and the doctor said, like, all right, let's take a look at your balls. And then afterwards, he was like, all right, you can put your balls away now. I'm done with them.
I had a guy, one of my doctors, not one of the ones that did surgery, but one of the ones that cared for it when I was in Wisconsin. I didn't really like him that much, and part of it was he would say a thing, and I'd be like, he'd say a thing to do. I'd be like, huh, is that gonna work? Because it just seemed like bizarre. It'd be just like a bizarre, like weird little like ritual thing. And he's like, well, if you believe it'll work, it'll work. Well,
Placebo Doctor. All my advice to patients are the placebo. The placebo solves everything. Long live the placebo.
That's the thing with doctors. Bedside manner is so important, and the placebo effect is real and significant. Individual differences apply, but for some people, the placebo works miracles beyond what a lot of modern medicine has to offer.
Yeah,
and it is incredible.
He should have said, yeah, of course it'll work. Am I not wearing a white coat? And then in his head, he's like, I know I'm just telling him a placebo thing.
Yeah.
But he doesn't need to know that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's the story. That's enough of it that I need to tell.
And exercise and gratitude. Perhaps we'll revisit the because that is the full arc of it, but it doesn't include the aftermath of like having to live with that after you don't have to do the fluid clean little science project every day and the IV and the thing. But I think that was a good journey of the breaking of it and the medical journey.
I will say the last thing, that my brain never broke until the end. And what happened was I had a few days. So I was able to ride a bicycle, and I was like, oh, I can do that. I can't walk yet, but I can ride a bicycle. And then I started using a cane for a while.
I remember the cane.
And I was like, what's up?
I remember the cane.
And I just thought, man, this is all right. It's finally over after a year or so. And then I just remember hitting a spot where I was like, oh, I might be using a cane for the rest of my life. And that was the first time where through the whole other time, other than there was a couple moments where I thought I was going to lose my foot, maybe, where that was on the table. But other than that, I just assumed I'm just going to heal and get better, at some point, and this will all be behind me. And when I was on the cane, there was a period of time when I was like, I'm going to be on a cane for the rest of my life. And that's when I finally broke, and it was pretty miserable.
But you don't need it now.
I did get better. It's true.
You're
I bet I'm going to need
you're
a cane when I'm older.
pickleballing, you're kicking rocks. I don't know if you kick rocks.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a limp pretty often, but I've been pickleballing like twice a day recently. So, I'm able to get like a fun athletic cardio workout and be active for 3 to 5 hours in a day. And
this could have saved your life too. To look at it the ultra optimistic perspective is that perhaps
I 100% agree.
You might have killed yourself if you had stayed on that road of confidence. Like, if I can jump down 15 feet here, then I can do another example that kills me. I'm out of examples. It's too late.
I mean, I often think, I wonder if I'd even take COVID or whatever as seriously as I do. A lot of things, not just COVID, but a lot of things. You'd be a touring
COVID comedian, one of those ones that gets it twice.
Yeah,
there's a lot of comedians that got COVID. It's a special bond.
So many, and they don't tell people publicly because they're like embarrassed about it or whatever. And it's fucking, there's a lot more comedians that have given COVID and getting people in situations where they get COVID, but I wouldn't have taken it as seriously, I bet, for myself personally. I don't know, maybe that's not true, because from a science standpoint, I think that I would still be down with it, but you don't know what it's like to be fucking maimed for the rest of your life until it happens. Because my foot's not bad, but it's still pretty damn annoying to wake up a lot of mornings and be limping around and it's not horrible pain or anything like that. But if the average person woke up tomorrow with a foot like mine feels like regularly, they'd be pretty upset about it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I feel like a lot of people have a miniature version of that. Like we all
You
have
do,
something wrong.
right?
Yeah, I've got the back thing. Some people might have a shoulder thing or like a breathing thing, but I doubt
Right.
anyone is walking around 100%. And if they are, they're probably terrible people.
And that's what that's why it's like before that, you know, the Invincible thing, and now it's like, well, fuck. I don't want to have brain fog. I don't want to have a respiratory issue and I could do a lot of things to take better care of myself for sure, but man, the idea of having something permanent happen for any reason, from a car accident or any of that. I was so fearless because I've never been scared of death, and I'm still not. But being maimed, that's a thing that slowed me down a bit.
Yeah, because death,
sure.
at least in the oblivion model of death, is like, what do I have to worry about not existing? Not existing seems way easier than existing. So what's scary is existing, and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very scary. Well, thanks for listening to my story, Ramin. Even though I know you've heard it before and know
Actually,
it well,
I didn't know a lot of those details. Like you got into the nitty gritty of it. I mean, I knew the album version of it. I knew the version of it as your friend during that era of your life where I got to see you have to. You actually came over to this place that I'm in right now when you had to do the fluid transfer thing. You lived in Malibu at the time. We have to move an old Christmas tree out to a dumpster at some point. I remember because she had a Christmas tree that was like 2 years old there or something. But a lot of the doctor stuff I didn't know about, like the particulars.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting companion episode to the My Big Break album. Listen to it again, even if you've already listened to it before. Get those plays in there so that Shane will get you'll get like 2 cents if someone listens to it 100 times.
Oh, probably nothing at all because it was with a company that
Don't
rips
listen to
off
it then.
comedians. No, you should listen to it, but just steal it. Just like listen to it any way that you want.
Oh,
and,
okay.
I'm probably going to look into seeing if I can
buy it
get
back.
what I'm owed from those people. There's a lot of people on this same label that have had this exact like kind of endless comics have had this experience with this one particular comedy or this one particular company in general. So
it is kind of like targeting the elderly if you get into finance with comedians, because they are a group that is like, what are they going to do? If you rip off 100,000 comedians, what are they going to do?
Sure, you're going to make an album for me? It costs like $5,000 to make a fucking album. And now you just own that shit.
Yeah.
You own someone's thing.
You own their material.
Just go to a comedy club that has mics set up already and they just hit record and put it out and spend a week mastering it. It's like easiest thing in the world. But we grew up in a time where it's like, wow, a producer and a recording studio. Like, Aesop did an album, The Uncluded with Kimya Dawson, and they recorded a couple of their songs on their phones because they did it remotely. And you can hear if you listen carefully, but
no, we don't care.
Yeah.
Like I remember the example that like if you're not into Katy Perry or something, then it doesn't matter if it's Katy Perry coming through a $10,000 microphone or Frank Sinatra coming through a $5 microphone. There's no amount that's going to make Katy Perry sound like Frank Sinatra. And if you're in the mood for Frank Sinatra, you'd rather have the really poor audio quality of that than the Katy Perry. And maybe vice versa. Maybe you hate Frank Sinatra and you want to be a firework. Baby, show him what you're worth. Is that the line? Anyway.
Oh, well, thanks for listening. And thanks again for all of your Patreon support. You Voids, Visionaries, Sweet honey bears, Camante de Bouffons, and future lunatics. We have merch available, which we don't often plug. I was wearing a shirt on the last episode. My favorite shirt is a little lunatic on there. But we have honey bear shirts. We have a Mind Under Matter shirt. We have ones with Ramin and I. We got a bunch of stuff going. Oh, I sent you that picture of Cole, Marta, and I, right? Cole wearing a shirt with our faces on it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So we have some cool stuff that helps support the show. But on Patreon, what I would say that I personally care the most about you checking out, just because you get more of us. There's just tons more content, more of our ideas and thoughts on life, more jokes to be had, and so it will keep you busy. So check that out, and until next time,
keep on salivating, honeys. Ding.